Tracy Martin.
Kia ora. Thank you, Mr Chair. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First to speak in support of this bill. But before I begin on the statements I wish to make around the first part of the bill, just to pick up on the fact that David Cunliffe mentioned intergenerational fairness and Holly Walker mentioned intergenerational equity, I think on behalf of New Zealand First I'd like to express our disappointment that we have lost the goal of actually returning to a time when the debt that is recognised by our young people through the provision of education is the debt of their time and their skill and their commitment to their country, as opposed to a financial debt. And I think it's a shame that it appears that Labour and the Greens have decided to move away from that being a goal that New Zealand First still holds through greater income across the whole of the nation so that we can support our young people more. But with regard to the Student Loan Amendment Bill number 2, I would like to spend the moments that I have addressing the supplementary order paper to Clause 10 in Part 1 that I have on the table. I mentioned these at first and second reading, and I apologise for the fact that I was not on the Select Committee, so I was unable to bring this comment to the Select Committee at the time, but I have now brought them to the House. And the supplementary order paper in my name seeks to address the concept of fairness. It's a word that is used in the preamble of this bill, and we have already heard it several times this evening. I want to be clear around why the two clauses that I have placed inside this supplementary order paper should be supported by all members of this House to address the fairness for New Zealand-based borrowers. New Zealanders with student loans who choose to stay at home, who don't choose to troop overseas, but to remain in the country, paying their taxes, both direct and indirect, and using their skills to benefit the nation, my supplementary order paper seeks to address the fairness of the repayment holiday. Right now, there is no recognition that New Zealand-based borrowers can find themselves in circumstances of financial stress. For example, if we take a hypothetical New Zealand two-parent, two-child family residing in Gisborne, both of the partners have pursued higher education and they carry student loans. In the last 3 months, the company with whom partner A was employed has shifted its production, lock, stock and barrel, to Melbourne, Australia. Partner A, now through no fault of their own, have found themselves without income. Obviously, under the current legislation, partner A is not required to keep up their loan repayments as their personal income has fallen below the repayment threshold. But what about partner B's income? This family is now totally dependent upon partner B's income. This family has been able to go to their bank, the one holding their mortgage, and gain recognition of their financial difficulty and gain a mortgage holiday from that institution. And my supplementary order paper would allow this New Zealand family to take the same set of difficult circumstances to their government via the Commissioner and gain a 1-year repayment holiday while they rework their finances. So that's the first part of my supplementary order paper 184. The second part of the order paper 184, supplementary order paper 184, is to shift the repayment holiday, the 1-year repayment holiday limit, from the individual to the loan. It is another small yet practical step to address fairness. Let us take the case of a 25-year-old engineering student who has completed her degree and has been lucky enough to find employment in her chosen field. While at university, she met the love of her life and went on to purchase a home here in New Zealand and begin a family. Now let's imagine that this young woman is actually partner B in the previous example. The Commissioner has quite rightly, if my supplementary order paper passes, the Commissioner has quite rightly recognised the financial difficulty that this young family had and granted this young woman a 1-year repayment holiday from that initial loan. Now, under current legislation, this would have completely used up this citizen's repayment holidays entitlement. So this young woman goes on to repay her student loan in full and after that 1-year repayment break. Now, fast forward 20 years. That young woman is now a confident 45-year-old. Her children have grown, and she now, as a lifelong learner, returns to university to upskill, to enhance her ability to add value to New Zealand. She needs to avail herself of another student loan to complete that study. Thankfully, she's only 45, not 55, or she'd be totally out of luck, but that's another story. Now she completes that study and once again takes up full employment. Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair.
Martin.
Thank you. Within 4 years, she and her family suffer the loss of her partner through an accident. This event obviously has a substantial effect on this lady's life in many ways. One of these ways is in her ability to meet the financial commitments they made jointly. My SOP 184 would recognise that this New Zealand-based borrower has not had a repayment holiday on this particular loan. It would recognise that she met all her previous repayment obligations with respect to her previous loan, and there should be no impediment for this New Zealand-based borrower to gain another 1-year repayment holiday due to hardship. I believe that cost could be or will be used as an argument to suggest that my supplementary order paper should be voted down. I would argue that just as the Minister cannot predict how many students with loans will seek a repayment holiday on the basis of travelling overseas in any given financial year, nor can he expect a flurry of applications from New Zealand-based borrowers, nor can he predict such a flurry should this supplementary order paper become part of the amendment bill. So I contend that this particular argument should be dismissed, especially considering that the Commissioner would have the ability to grant these repayment holidays under a set of criteria, unlike the ability for overseas-based borrowers to leave the country without any required clearance. We come back to fairness, and so I ask all the parties of this House to support my supplementary order paper 184 for the fairness of New Zealand-based borrowers. Thank you.
Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very pleased to take a call on this bill, and I was intrigued to hear from the Greens spokesman that this apparently the government